today. So we're going to talk about financial functions, data tables, and amortization schedules. How many have heard of amortization? Paul, real estate. Have you guys heard of it? No? Okay, we'll learn about it. We'll learn a little about it today. Roll call we just did. So just a reminder, what was due on Sunday was your Module 3 training, the SAM exam for Module 3 and the project, and then also your course project database, which I'll show you how to submit that in just a second here. But the SAM exam and SAM projects, if you haven't done them, do them because the work gets graded automatically using artificial intelligence, and so it'll give you a grade and it'll submit it. So even if you're late on it, get it in. I know a lot of you have different reasons for not being able to get to it yet, but go ahead and do it. These two things here account for 50% of your grade, so it's important to get it in. And remember, just a couple of reminders is that those SAM projects can be submitted up to 3 times. So if you're not getting it right the first time and you're struggling, come see me during my office or make an appointment during my office hours or make an appointment. Okay. What else? Oh, just another reminder here that our last week, finals week, you will be having the opportunity to take the Microsoft Office Specialist Certification exam. And these are just, they sent me a couple of posters, so I took some pictures of them. I like the one on the left. Doesn't she look like, I got my badge, don't you mess with me. So, so you'll be getting one in Excel, and one of our earlier students from past semester took the certification exam, and he's got to post it on his LinkedIn website and all that. And there's value in being certified. The data show that the median salary for people that are certified in Microsoft Office Specialists is $72,900. And very, some are higher than lower than others. And you can get certified in things other than Excel. There's PowerPoint and Word and that sort of thing, but we're focusing on Excel. Okay, so that's that. Let me show you real quick how to get into the discussion for your assignments. So if you go into Course Tools and under Discussions, so here's a couple of posts here, and remember that the assignment is that you're going to upload your course project workbook by adding the attachment, and you can use the template that I provided in class earlier, or here it is right here. You just click on it, it'll download it to your database, and this is what you'll be filling out. And remember the example that I showed you earlier of mine. It's shown in the other video, and that video is here. If you want to watch the video, so I go through step by step how to create this database. Okay. What? Really? Okay, good. So, and so the assignment is to upload your course project database, which includes the cause and effect diagram, the solutions, how are you going to improve whatever it is you're trying to improve, and then that's all you have to do, just submit it. And the way to submit it is to upload your course project workbook, use add attachment, and then once you submit it, wait for your buddy to submit theirs if they haven't already. And once they have submitted it, give them feedback on the following. Do you think your buddy's focusing on the right solutions? Right? So I'm trying to get to my optimal weight. And some of you guys have been offering solutions to me as I've been explaining. Like I was talking about portion control, and someone in one of the other classes, hey, have you thought about using smaller plates? So that's a good idea. So that's part of the solution. So that was helpful. So provide that kind of feedback to your buddy. And then, are they using the right measures? Remember, there's two sets of measures. There's just not only your goal. So if it's weight, or if it's screen time, or sleep, whatever it is, you want to record whether or not you're making improvements in those areas. But you also want to record, are you doing the things that should cause you to get to that improvement? So those are your solution measures. So, for weight, it's, diet and exercise. Am I using portion control? How many fast food meals am I eating out per day? Am I exercising? How many calories am I burning during exercise? Whatever the solutions are, keep track of those, because you'll see we'll see later on that there's interesting patterns can form. So anyway, that's what you do. So then once you're in there, so if I wanted to submit mine, I don't know if I could, I would click on this, and I would click start a new thread, and I would type Paul DeYoung, and here is my project database. That's it. And then I would see right here where it says add attachments. I click on add attachments. I go to upload. I find my file wherever it is. I think it's on my Marymount OneDrive. Here it is. So I click on that. I click post. And there it is. Here's my project database. And then if I had a buddy, I don't have any buddies in this class. But if I had one, I would get feedback from my buddies. So you would click on my name, you would look at the file, and you would say, all right, yeah, these are all, whatever, maybe you can make some improvements here. Looking at the data journal, oh, I got some holes in it. But I have work to do. You would provide feedback here. Reply to the thread, and you just provide feedback here. Okay? Question? Yeah, that will be your journal. So that'll be your workbook, and you'll be adding sheets to it as you go on. So one of the sheets is your database. So that's your database, and so this is what you're going to be tracking. And this is just kind of like this. Think of this as sort of like your home page, where it's giving you your project. You're going to be telling a story at the end of the semester. Part of it's going to be visual, and remember, this is not just a quantitative journey. There's a qualitative aspect of data collection. So you may want to show your cause and effect diagram, or whatever it is that you think might be helpful to tell your story. Okay. So yeah, here's the data journal. The next one's going to be a line chart. So for example, I'll just show you real quick here. So I look at highlight this one, and Paul asked, how do you highlight non-adjacent work cells? Do you guys remember how to do that? So I want to highlight the date and then this weight column that goes down to Wednesday 2/20. How would I do? Now what I need to do in order to highlight this? Hold the control, and then what? Click and drag with my left mouse button. So if I go to insert and then recommended charts, there's a line chart right here. So look, there's right. So starting to track my weight, going back to 2/3 and 2/20. So I got some catching up to do. If you have blank spots because you didn't do anything, that's data. You record that, right? So that's what you want to know. So yeah, for example, if I whatever reason, I have a back injury and I can't swim for a while, I'm not going to have a whole bunch of spots where it says I burned 0 calories swimming for, that week or whatever while I recovered. Okay, other questions? So hopefully it's clear. Obviously, I was not clear in my instructions. I'm sure more of you would have turned it in. But that is due this Sunday. Course project database. So shall we start with Module 4? You guys want to do that? Let's do that because that's due this Sunday. Here's this Sunday's homework. SAM training, SAM exam, SAM project, and then the course project database. And we'll get started on Module 5 next week. So we are going to talk about financial functions, data tables, and amortization schedules. Just a couple of things to point out. We're going to learn how to name a cell and refer to a cell in a formula using a name. You know what I'm talking about? Naming a cell? Cell block number 19. So like a cell, Excel has cells, and maybe that's the CEL part of it. So that they're organized by rows and columns, and sometimes so if you refer to, for example, B1, right? That's a reference, but sometimes you want to give that cell a name because B1 doesn't mean anything. If B1 includes like a tax rate, you might say, okay, that's the tax rate or an interest rate, and you can just name it. So we'll talk about that. Not a big deal. The payment function is interesting one. We're going to learn about that. That's part of we're going to use that in the amortization and loan calculation tables, and color and thickness is kind of how to format stuff. So not a lot of new concepts. Actually, there are a lot of new concepts, so they introduce these to us slowly. I think on the exam there's only like 14 tasks as opposed to like what are they usually 24 or so. And so it's a little bit easier. So that's amortization. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to go over amortization a little bit. And I am not a finance person. In business, I work in numbers, but I tend not to work in numbers that have dollar signs in front of them all the time. I just don't find those numbers all that interesting. Yeah, what? Not fun. I mean, they're interesting. They're interesting at some point, but I like to look at numbers about other things, about people and business operations, that sort of thing. Exactly. Yeah. As long as they're positive and not negative. So let's talk. So amortization. Have any of you ever taken out a loan? By show of hands, yeah. And paid interest. School loan. Okay. Well, you're gonna have to. Don't you have to pay those back with interest at some point? So if you want to figure out what your interest rates are going to be and what your paybacks are going to be, you can actually use some of these amortization schedules. So I'm just going to show you a quick video. This is a guy from, I forget where, but he does it in less than 3 minutes. So I thought he does a better job than I can. So let me just show you the video real quick here. You can't hear it, can you? All right, so let me just put it on. Sorry.
towards the house instead of interest. So things aren't so bad, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll have a really expensive asset that you own. Anyways, I hope this made the concept of amortization a little less confusing. If you like, please.
All right. Thank you, Teddy Smith. I think I picked that last semester because we were having all those storms, and that particular day I was looking at Wilmington got hammered. Okay, so that's amortization. Oh, just a couple other fun facts about amortize. I like to look at the origin of words sometimes. The definition, bless you, of amortize is to pay off obligations such as mortgage, gradually, usually periodic payments of principal and interest, or by payments to a sinking fund to gradually reduce or write off the cost of something. So, but did you know when you amortize a loan, you kill it off gradually by paying it down in installments? And amortize comes from the word and vulgar Latin. What's vulgar Latin? I never heard of that before. Anyway, vulgar Latin, ad motire, meaning to kill. The Latin noun mors, death, is a root of ad motire, and it's related to our word murder. And it also gave us a word naming a kind of loan that is usually amortized, which is a mortgage. Mortgage, right? How many of your parents have mortgages on their house? That word literally means, it comes from the French mort and engage. Mort means death, and engage means pledge, right? Engage means pledge, so it's basically a death pledge, right? So that's where the term mortgage comes from. So anyway, makes you think twice about wanting to have one. So I happen to have one. So let's see, Module 4. To do that, just go into, let's do it right now. So go into content, whoops, yes. Okay, and then Module 4, project. Press the start button, and I'm going to download my instructions file. Take a look at that. And we're going to be buying a camp, Camp Malowski. Yay. Any of you ever been to camp? Yeah? You like camp? Girl Scout camp? What's that? Module 4. Yes, while your pages get loaded, I will then go back to my start file. I'm going to download that file and open that up. Enable editing. And the first thing you want to do is save it. I'm going to save mine to, what class is this? Here we go. And make sure it's that your name and then _2. Okay, so now that the file is saved, I'm going to click on the Campground Mortgage Worksheet. That's what we're going to be working off of. I'm going to make mine zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it up on the screen a little bit easier. And just to give you a lay of the land, so we have 3 tables here. One is a mortgage loan payment calculator. Have you guys ever looked at those online? You kind of figure out, like, if I had put so much down and the asset cost this much, how much would it cost my monthlies be? So that's kind of what this does right here. And then this table is looking at varying interest rate schedules. When you borrow money, do you want to borrow with a low interest rate or a high interest rate? Low. Why? Less interest. So the cost you less to borrow the money, right? Right. Basically, it's I always think about a loan as basically you're buying money, right? Like how are you buying it? Buying it at? So sometimes you shop around and you hope you may get a lower interest rate because what are things that determine what interest rate you can qualify for when you try to get a loan? Your income, your credit, right? Do we all have credit scores? Right? Yeah, so we're all kind of want. What's that? If you have a credit card, at some point you have a credit score. I think I just saw something the other day that said babies. There are there's data on babies before they're even born that are now floating around on the internet. Yeah. So you have accounts that you may not even know about, but they're tracking your credit score. So when you do want to get a loan, it may determine the better your credit score, the lower the interest rate that you can usually get. They always when they do those ads on TV for your car, actual rates may vary depending on your interest. So anyway, this is a table we're gonna build that'll show us what our potential payments would be depending on what interest rate we can get. And then over here is the amortization schedule, which is that thing that is the gradual increase of paying off your principal and decrease in paying off your interest over time, or the flip side of that. So that's what we're going to be filling out, and takes a little bit of doing because we have to play around with the functions. So Justin and Kayleen Malowski have always dreamed of purchasing and running a campground. Kayleen wants to be ready when a campground becomes available, so she decides to start calculating how a mortgage will impact her family's budget on a monthly basis over the life of the loan. She also wants to consider how different mortgage interest rates will impact the total cost of the campground. So the first thing they want us to do is to switch to the campground mortgage worksheet. So let's do that. And in cell D5, that's right here, that's our monthly payment. We're going to play around with the payment function to determine the monthly payments for the anticipated campground mortgage using the defined names rate, term years, and loan amount as the rate, NPER, and PV arguments. Do you have any clue what I'm talking about? When I talk about rate and term years and loan amount. So the rate, what is the rate here? The interest rate. So 5.75%, that's the rate. Notice also that when I click on the rate here, if you go over to the name box, it has a name. It's been named. Someone's already gone through and given this a name. Remember I was saying you give a cell a name, cell block 19? So this name is rate, and it happens to be the same thing as what's over here on the left. So that's the rate. So 5.75%. If I borrowed $100 and had to pay it off, that $100 over a year with a 5.75% interest rate, how much would I owe the bank at the end of the year to have borrowed that $100? Anyone? $5.75, right? So I would say that's not bad. I could do that. But when it comes to hundreds of thousands of dollars, then it starts to add up for the bank. The term here is 15 years. Most mortgages, what do you think, Paul? Are they 15 or 30 around here? 30. Yeah, most of them are 30. And why will you spread the number of years that you pay back a loan? Why would you want to increase it? Yeah, why would you want to go like if you can get a 15-year loan or a 30-year loan? Why would you want to increase it, go from 15 to 30 years? Lower payments, right? To lower your monthly payments, right? We live on cash flow, as my dad would always say, right? That's what matters. So yeah, you want to lower your payments. So even though you'll see that it costs you a lot more to pay for that money over the time, the bank's more than happy to do it, but you'll see how much an advantage they get by doing that. All right, so that's the term years, and then the PD, or the is the loan amount. That's the present value. So that's this number right here. So Camp Malowski is the price is $486,000, and Kayleen and Justin are able to put down $97,200 in cash as a down payment. And so that means the difference between 486 and 97 is 388. That's how much they need to borrow. So that's what they're going to be amortizing. You can amortize a non-tangible asset, but you cannot depreciate a non-tangible asset. I just learned that. So anyway, we need to figure out our monthly payment, and so we're going to use the payment function. So where do we find the payment function? Well, they're just telling it what it is. So if I type equals, oh no, wait, they're saying in cell D5, what are they saying to do? Put a negative sign here instead of an equal sign. And the reason why we do that is the monthly payment function always assumes that it's a what is it? A negative. It's a negative. It's a payment. So it's you're deducting something. But in this case, to make a negative a positive, you have to put a negative in front of it, right? Because a negative times a negative is a positive. All right. So anyway, it's a little confusing. So I type in minus payment and then the open parentheses, and then here we get our arguments here. So rate, NPER, PV, and these here in brackets, when they're in brackets, it means that it's not required for the payment function to work. So the rate is, we already figured that out, is the interest rate. The NPER is the number of periods, and PV is a present value. So we have all that information. But they're asking us to use the names, and so we're going to type rate because that's the cell name. And you notice that what should pop up is rate, which happens to be a function, like payment is a function. But in this case, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the cell name rate. And you can tell it's a cell name rate because it's got this little like luggage tag next to it, right? So that's the way they could tell that it's been named in your database. So I'm going to click on that, and now we have rate for rate, and then NPER is, they're saying it's term years. So I just start typing TE, and there up pops term years. So I can double click on that, and then hang on a second. I have to do something with this. The rate, let me go back. All right, so not to confuse things, but the rate needs to be divided by 12. Why is that? Because the rate, what's that? It's monthly. Very good. Right, so the rate here is the annual percentage rate, APR, that they often talk about on those commercials, those car commercials. So that's the annual percentage rate, and because this is a monthly payment, we have to divide that by 12 and put that there. So that's our rate. The term years is multiplied by 12 because there are 12 months in a year. Okay, so I times 12, and the loan amount, the P, which is present value, that's what PV stands for, is the 388. So I just start typing in loan, and then that pops up. So I double click on that and close the parentheses. Yeah, they're all part of the argument. Yeah, I think this is right. Yeah. So here we go. So now we figured out what our monthly payment is, knowing what the rate, the term, and the loan amount is. And that amount is $3,228.63. For loan amount, yeah. It's okay. All right. So who could tell me looking at your mortgage loan payment calculator, how much are they paying in total interest over the life of the loan? How much is it? How much are they paying in interest? How much are they giving back to the bank to borrow that $388,000? $192,000, 354 cents, right? Okay, so if we want to, remember we were talking about lowering our monthly interest. So that $192,000, by the way, that's like half of the cost of the loan amount, right? So you're giving the bank back 50%, for every dollar, you're giving them back 50 cents. That's not a bad investment for the bank, right? And it's a good deal for you because you can't afford this whole $380,000 right now. What do you think is going to happen if I change the term years to what's more a common loan here, to 30? What's going to happen to the monthly payment? It's going to decrease. And what's going to happen to the total interest? It's going to go up or down? Up by how much? Twice? Think it's twice? You would think it's twice if it's twice, more than twice. So when you are borrowing and paying back a loan over the life of the loan, so now you've gone from $3,200 a month down to $2,200 a month, right? So your monthly is much lower. So you might be able to afford that. However, over the life of the loan, you're paying back to the bank $428,000 in interest. So for every dollar that you're borrowing, you're giving them back more than a dollar to borrow that money. So your parents that have mortgages like me, that's what you're doing, right? So whatever your house costs, if you're borrowing, I don't know, whatever, they're expensive homes here in Palos Verdes. If they're borrowing $1 million for that loan, they're probably paying back, $2.5 million to borrow that money. Okay. It changes back to 15. The formula is it's rate divided by 12, comma, then term underscore years times 12, comma, then loan underscore amount. That's the formula. Any questions? No space. Yeah, no, this is not proper English. That looks good. Yep, it worked. Yeah, no space. All right, so number 2, Kayleen calculated the anticipated total cost of the campground using the mortgage interest rate she expects to qualify for. But she now wants to determine how different interest rates could impact the total cost of the campground. Select the range A12 to A26, bless you, and fill it with the percent series based on the values in range A12 to A13. So I'm going to highlight A12 and A13, And then I'm going to use our friend, Mr. Phil Handel. Remember him? Phil. And we're going to drag Phil all the way down to cell A26. And what it does is it saw the pattern. You know, when I highlighted those two, the difference between 0.5 and 0.75 is how much? 0.25, right? So then it saw that pattern, and when you drag it down, it just sees that pattern. Notice how this row is blank here. That's for a reason. When you're creating this is a what if, kind of a what if table. So we'll see in a minute why we do that. All right, so number 3 is we want to create a single variable data table to determine the impact that the variable interest rates in A12 to A26 here, or we'll have the total cost of the campground. Is that a typo? In cell B11, we're going to create a formula without using a function that references cell D5, the monthly payments. So how do I create a reference to cell D5? Equals, and then just type D5, right? So it highlights it there, that's it. So when I want this to appear here, I just put equals that cell. And for total interest rate, that's this cell here. So I just put equals this guy. I can click on it, hit enter. And for this one, I just type equals and click on total cost, D7, and hit enter. So now we have what is always going to appear in the loan payment calculator at the top row here. So this is representing the 5.75% interest rate. All right, now select the cell A11 to D26 to create a single variable data table using an absolute reference to cell D3 and the mortgage interest rate as a column input cell. So they're asking us to highlight A11 to D26. So this is going to be our whole data input table. And this is a what if kind of scenario. So do you remember where we find the what if tool? It's under data. Data, and on the ribbon, it's the over here it says what if analysis. There's 3 types of what if analyses. There's a scenario manager, goal seek, which we did in module 3, I believe, and then data table. So this is a data table. So I click on data table, and they're telling us that the column input cell is D3. So that means that that's this cell, that's the rate here, and that's going to determine the input for all the rest of these. So that's the cell D3. So if I click down there and then click on cell D3, it puts in $D, $3. What do the dollar signs mean? What kind of reference is that? Relative or absolute? Absolutely. Absolutely. Dollar sign is absolute. If they were relative, it would just be D3 without the dollar signs. So I click OK, and then in goes the payments. Yes. So I will undo it. Oops. I will redo it. Where was I? What happened to my undo? Why does it keep doing that? I need to close. Sorry, hang on a second here. Close that. Don't save. And close that. Don't save that. All right. Now I can. So what I did is I highlighted A11 to D26 because that's the data table. And then I went over to what if, and then chose data table. And the column input cell is D3, so I just click on D3. and it asked for an absolute reference, and so it put in an absolute reference by default. And then I clicked OK, and then that should fill the rest of your table. Over here? No, you don't. In this case, it's a column input cell, and so it means that all of these calculations are being based off of what's in the column to the left of it. So it's calculating, for example, what would my monthly payment be for a 3.5% interest rate? Yeah, when I created the table, yeah. So what I did is I clicked on data table, and then clicked down here, and then just clicked on the cell, and then automatically puts the dollar sign there in front of it. Elena, can you help Maria out? Thank you. All right. So now we have our data table. Thank you, Elena. All right. So now you have your data table, and you can see what all the various interest rates are. Your monthly payment is much higher, right? If well, $500 or so higher than if it's a 7% interest rate versus a 3.5% interest rate. So it behooves you as a borrower to have a low interest rate. The bank makes more money off of you for higher interest rate. Okay, now Kayleen wants to use our conditional formatting. Do you remember conditional formatting? Right, it'll make your cells look a certain way depending on certain conditions. So we're going to do that. So it's kind of as a friendly reminder here. And to do that, she decides to highlight the matching interest rate in her schedule with the conditional formatting rule. So she basically wants to highlight whatever's in the rate calculator up here, the loan payment calculator. In this case, it's 5.75%. So she wants to call that out here in the interest rate schedule. So she just wants to highlight so we can see where that compares. So let's do that. So we're going to use the so we're going to highlight A12 to A26, right? Because this is our input range. And we want to use conditional formatting for any cell in the range that's equal to the value of cell D3 using an absolute cell reference to cell D3 with green fill, dark green text. So remember where conditional formatting is hiding? I think it's on our home tab. So it's on the home tab, and on the ribbon in the middle where it says conditional formatting, you're just going to click on the down arrow for conditional formatting. And so highlight cell rules. Yeah, so if you hover over highlight cell rules, it's asking you to find it if it's equal to a certain value. And so that's right down here. So I go down and I click on equal to. In this case, it's picking 5.25%, but we want it to always refer to whatever we type in here to down here. And so in this case, it's cell D3. So if I click on D3, again, it gives me my absolute cell reference, which is what they're asking for. And they're asking it for it to be, I think, green fill with dark green text. So if I click on the down arrow and I choose that and then choose OK, voila, it has made it green, right? So 5.75%. If I wanted to highlight, 3.5%, if I type 3.5 here, okay, it changed all the numbers, but it also then highlights the 3.5%. See, so that's what conditional formatting does. But we don't want to do that. It's 5.75. Whoops. Yeah, that's right. Now would be a good time to save. Any questions on that conditional formatting? All right, number 6, in cell K4, where are we moving on to? Okay, so we're moving on to our amortization schedule now. I'm sorry. Kayleen now wishes to finalize the amortization schedule. So, number 5, in cell J4, so we're moving over to this schedule here. We are going to create a formula without using a function that subtracts the value in cell I4 from the value in cell H4 to determine how much of the mortgage of the principal is being paid off each year. So, Vincent, this is a funny way of describing how to subtract things, right? So when it says subtract the value I4 from the value in H4, what's the formula? Oh, sorry. So it's equal, it's going to be, so the principal is simply going to be the difference between the beginning balance and the ending balance for that year, right? That's what you paid on your principal. We're on number 5. Now, it's minus H4 minus I4, just because they tell you, they always do that. They'll say, subtract the value from another value. It's like kind of backwards, but because it's going to be H4 minus I4. Right. So that's all it is. So that's how much you paid on principal. So yeah, so it's beginning balance minus the ending balance. So H4 minus I4. And so in the first year, they paid $16,826.47 in principal. And then you can see it kind of changes each year. Well, we'll see in a second. So I think they want us to now copy this formula to the range J5 to J, what cell is this? J18. Huh? No, in J4 you type H4 minus I4. Yeah. Yeah, don't type over the number. So can you see here the principal that it ratchets up? You pay less on the principal in the beginning and much more towards the end. So that means that the interest that you're paying in the beginning is going to be much higher and lower at the end because that's the amortization schedule. So the formula is going to be a little tricky, and we're going to use, for some reason, they want us to use the if function. And the if function, these logical functions, so if, and, or, are something that they test you on for the certification exam. So it is something to pay attention to. So we're going to need to know how to use these. All right, so for number 6, in cell K4, create a formula using the if function. So how do you start a formula? Equals. And then if. So I'm going to click on the function. No, actually, I'm going to start it differently. So I'm going to go over to my formulas tab, and the formulas, I don't know why they call it formulas. They should call it functions because these are all functions. But in any case, this is a logical function. So if I click on the down arrow for the logical function and click if, I get my arguments. Sometimes these are helpful. These are helpful to me just to see what I need to do. So the logical test is if H4 is greater than 0. So I'm going to type H4 greater than 0. And all that means is that if the beginning balance is greater than 0, you have to do something. The value, if true, is it should return J4 subtracted from the value in cell D5 multiplied by 12. and use the relative cell reference to cell J4 and an absolute cell reference to D5. Hint, use 12 times absolute D5 minus J4 as the is true arguments value in the formula. So they're telling us a hint right here. So let's take their hint. I'm going to type 12 times $D $5. So that's the monthly payment. Okay, and it's monthly, so it's over the course of the year that we have to get the answer to this. So that's why we multiply it times 12. D5 minus J4 J4. So that's the how much you paid on the principal. So J4, and the value if it's false is 0, right? Because if there's no beginning balance, you can't pay interest on 0. Bank could try, but I don't think they would get away with it. And that's our formula. So I click OK. It gives me this number 21917.14506. So it hasn't been converted into the right format yet, but we will. So it should, you got a name error. It should say, your formula should be if H4 is greater than 0, comma, 12 times $D $5 minus J4, comma 0. If it's false. And that should return your formula. Then we're going to copy this on down. Hey, how come I have pound signs on my screen? What's that? Yeah, I can auto fit. Yeah, it has to do with the resolution. If I double click on the cell width, it will bring it into view. So we've copied the formula, and now they want us to apply the accounting number formula format with 2 decimal places and $sign as a symbol to the range K4 to K18. So highlight K4 to K18. 18, I got 19. K4 to K18. What's the quickest way to highlight? I mean, to convert it into accounting format? I'm going to click on the Home tab, and over here we have our, click on the dollar bill. There you go. And that's the fastest way to do it. And see how it went from general or number to accounting. All right, so number 7. Number 8. In cell K20, create a formula without using a function that references the defined name down payment. So K, where are we? 8. K20. So we need to reference down payment. So that's this over here. So I need to move that to down payment, but they want us to reference it. So if I just start typing, if I type equal and then DO, there it is. Down payment appears because that's a cell that has been given a name, which is down payment. So I double click on that and then hit enter, and then it sticks in the down payment automatically. So it's helpful to name cells sometimes because you don't want to have to keep going back and what was that? B6 again? Oh yeah, the down payment. So if you just know what it is, down payment, then you can search it out and use that. Yes, you could have. You could have typed in B6 and then it would work. All right, number 9, Kayleen decides to add custom cell borders to the amortization schedule to make it easier to read. Apply the custom cell borders with a green accent 6, darker 50%, blah, blah, blah. 10th, oh my, all right. So they're wanting us to add an outline. So A, add an outline to G3 to K21. So I'm going to highlight G3 to K21. So yeah, it's kind of like this whole table. And they're asking us to add an outline border with a medium border style. Oh my gosh, how do I add an outline border? Yes. Yes, I will post this recording so you guys can go back and review this. This thing, this little window box, yeah, this is the border. Okay, so here we have all our borders here, and I think we need to go all the way down to where it says more borders. And here's our little tool here, and you can see all these presets. And then we have border. There's the top border. Here's kind of a middle one, the bottom one, left side, vertical, right side. So we're going to use these tools in order to create the borders, and we need to all give it a color. And the color they set up above was green, accent 6, darker 50%. So I'm going to go down to where it says color here, click on the down arrow, and it's this one all the way down to the far right bottom, right? If I hover over it, it tells me it's green, accent 6, darker 50%. So I click on that. It almost looks black to me, but anyway, that's the color that they want us to use. And now we can use this color to start adding the outline border with medium. So I can click on first I need to figure out the medium border style, which is the second column, fifth row. So here's the first column, here's the second column. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Click on that, and now click the outline, and it's giving me the outline border, and I click OK, and if I click outside, it should look like this. It should have a border on the outside. But we got more work to do here, so that's number A. And now they want us to add a vertical line border with light border style, first column, seventh row to the range G3 to K21. So I'm going to highlight G3 to K21 again, and I'm going to go back to my border tool, click on the down arrow, click on more borders, and the vertical tool is right here. That's this guy, but they want a light border, which is in the first column, seventh row. So that's this one down here at the very bottom. So I click on that one, and I click here, and it's now added a picture of the vertical border. If I click OK, click outside, now you can see it's added vertical borders, but it's done it for every column that was in the that's in the table here. The vertical option exists in the more borders right down here. Yep. So the next one, so the next one is cancel. I'm going to go outside here. So the other one is C, is they want us to add a top border with a light border style, first column, seventh row to the range G4 to K4. So I'm going to highlight G4 to K, is that right? Am I in the right row? G4 to K4. And they want us to add a top border with the light border style. So I'm going to click on my little tool here, click on more borders, and here's my top border. What style they want to be? Light border style, first column, seventh row. So that's this one. And I click that. And there's our border. Okay. So now we have a top border. Now they want us to add a bottom border with a light border style to the range G18 to K18. So I'm going to highlight G18 to K18, and I'm going to put a bottom border. Boy, Donald Trump would like this tool, wouldn't he? I'm going to add a border right down here. Okay, so they want it to be the first one. I'm going to click on the bottom border here. Here's Canada. Here's Mexico. I got my borders. Um, so top and bottom borders. And so there you go. Questions? Did I do it too fast? So highlight these cells, G18 to K18. Go to, bless you, go to the bottom, go to the border tool, go down to where it says more borders. Choose the line thickness, which is this one. And then down here, this is your bottom border tool right here. Click on that, and then you click, oops, don't unclick, yeah, click OK, and then you have your bottom border. G4 to K4, and then it's a top border. All right, number 10. To make various elements of the Campground Mortgage Worksheet easy to select and print, Kayleen wants to add custom names to the ranges. Let me just make sure I'm recording here. Am I not recording? No. Okay, I am recording. Sorry, I just want to make sure I was recording. To make the various elements of the Campground Mortgage Worksheet easier to select and print, Kayleen wants to add custom names to the ranges in the worksheet. So you can give names to cells, right? We gave names like to our rate. That has a name called rate. But you can also give names to ranges. So sometimes that's helpful as well. So we're going to give a name to all three of these ranges here. So the first one is A2 to D7. So I highlight those, and we want to give it a name. Where do we assign names? I think it's kind of like a formula. So over here on the Formula tab, over where it says Define Name, I click on Define Name, and they want it to be mortgage payment. So I guess they want loan out of there and calculator out of there. So I click on that, get rid of that. Mortgage payment. All right, so that said nothing happens, but it's been given a name, and you can see it appears in our name box here. Okay, so now they want us to give custom name to the range A9 to D26, and that name is going to be, what is it? It's interest rate schedule. So just get rid of varying underscore in front of it. That should work. Click OK. Now it has a name, and we're going to give a name to our amortization schedule over here, and that's going to be called amortization schedule. So we go to define name, and it's already called amortization schedule because that's what's in there. So I guess that works. So nothing to change. I suppose so. The reason why you do this is that there's a way to refer to these things if you want to just print them. Like I just wanted to print the amortization schedule for some reason and not print all this. I could just go, there's a way to print it and by just choosing its name, but we're not going to do that right now in the interest of time. So assign names to cells in the range D5 to D7 by selecting the range C5 to D7 and creating names from the selection using the values in the left column as a defined name. All right, so what we need to do is select the range C5 to D7. So C5 to D7. So you know how we just defined, we could define names one cell at a time? We could also do it in kind of batches. In this case, we're going to be able to define a name for each one of these cells, so D5, D6, and D7, by looking to the left of what's over there. So here it's going to be monthly payment, total interest, and total cost. So that's going to give, those are going to be associated with the associated names for those cells. And the way to do that, the shortcut, is to go to back to your Formulas tab, Create from Selection. And when you click on that, since we have a selection, we click on the left column, which means that it's everything to the left you should choose as its name. So click OK, and each one of these now has a cell name, right? So this is now monthly payment. Notice how it doesn't accept spaces. It'll give it an underscore when it automatically assigns names. I guess for whatever reason, the name box has to be one whole set of characters. Okay, that's number 11. Number 12. Kayleen wishes to protect the worksheet so that she doesn't make any accidental changes to the values. However, since her assumptions about the price of the campground, the down payment, and the mortgage interest rate might be incorrect, she wants to be able to update these values in the protected worksheet. All right, so you know these Excel worksheets get around, they need some protection. So we want to be able to prevent people from making changes to certain cells and be able to make changes to only a select few. So the first thing we have to do is that apparently some of the cells have been locked, so we have to unlock them. So we've got to cell B5 and B6, highlight those because these are the cells that people are going to be able to change. So we want to unlock those, and the way to unlock those is to right-click and then go to Format Cells, and there's a tab that says Protection, very last one, and it's been locked. So we need to unlock it by unchecking it. And click OK, and they have now been unlocked. They also want us to unlock cell D3, which is the rate, right, because these things may vary. So right-click, Format Cells, and then unlock it. Click OK. That's B. Now we need to protect the campground mortgage worksheet without a password. Have you ever gotten a worksheet or a file that has a password associated with it? Right. So this is where you would do that. But in this case, they don't want to have that much security, so we're not going to use a password today. So how do we do that? How do we protect the worksheet? Review. Yeah, so you have some interesting tools over here, and those little locks, these locks here. You can protect the sheet, or you can protect the whole workbook, which is the whole file, right? In this case, we're just protecting this one particular sheet. And so we click on that. And it's already been checked, protect worksheet and contents of locked cells. So password to unprotect sheet. So that was where you would type in a password, but we're not doing that, so just leave it blank, and we click OK, and the worksheet has been protected. You can't really tell until you try to do something. So for example, if you try to change the term years to 30, what's going to happen? It won't let you. You just haven't found the key. Okay, so it's in the Review tab, and then there's Unprotect, or actually Protect Sheet in your case. You're going to protect your sheet. Oh, yeah, you right-click on it, Format Cells, and then Protection, the Protection tab. All right, we're almost there. So number 13, Kayleen had previously hidden the worksheet containing data on other recently purchased campgrounds in New Hampshire. Now she wants to compare data in that worksheet with the data that she just calculated. Unhide campground worksheet. Did you know you could hide your sheets? How do you unhide it? Right click down here. So if I right click on one of the worksheet tabs, here it is, unhide. So I click on hide, and Kayleen, that sneaky devil, she's been hiding her campground worksheet research. So I'm gonna, and there it is, campground research. So I click OK, and there it is. So there's her research. Yeah. um, so now we have a worksheet looking at Firefly Pines, Camp Serenity, Tame River, and Camp Shepherd. I love the names. So these are other campgrounds that have been for sale, and or might be for sale, and this is where they are in their various lifespans of their mortgages. So Firefly Pines is pretty early in their mortgage. They got a 15-year mortgage, and they've only been paying it off for 5 years. Camp Shepherd, they're much further along. So now that we've unhidden the worksheet, we need to look at the worksheet. Let me make this bigger so it's a little easier to see. In cell B8, so that's here, which is we're going to calculate the mortgage balance at the end of the current year. So we want to figure out how much he owes on the worksheet, how much they owe on their mortgage. So we're going to first multiply the value in cell B6, so that's the term years, by the value in B7, which is the monthly payment. So that would be how much they would pay for 15 months. So we have to multiply that times 12 to convert it to an annual, and then subtract the value cell B4, the total loan amount, and then copy the formula. So we need to create the formula right here. So what's the formula going to be? It's equals, and then what? B6 times B7 times 12. Is that right? That looks right. Oh, wait, no. That's not right. So we have to subtract the value in cell B4, which is the total loan amount, right? So that's this amount here. They're not paying off on the 550. They're paying off on this amount. So minus B4. So I put in minus B4. Am I in the wrong cell? That's right, B8. Sorry. Oops. Copy the formula here. Oh, forget it. So what is it? So the formula is B6 times B7 times 12 minus B4. Oops, I did something wrong here. Let's see how far I can go back. All right. B6 times B7 times 12 minus B4. Why do I keep getting that value? I just did something on the, let me ignore the error for right now. So the formula should be C3 plus 38, so this should be B3 plus B8. Oh, I don't have a equal sign in front of it. Hello. Is that right? Okay. And they want us to copy this across, I'm assuming. Mr. Phil Handel. All right, number 15. We're almost done here. Kayleen would like to be able to see the remaining balance of the campground mortgage at the end of the current year. So that's a little tricky. And in cell B11, we want to create a formula using the PV function, which is the present value function, to determine the outstanding balance of the mortgage. For the rate parameter, so we're going to type in PV. So right equals PV, and then open parentheses, and then here we get our arguments: rate and PER and payment. So this is kind of the reverse of it before. Remember, before payment was on the outside and PV was here. So the rate is going to be B5 divided by 12. Why? Because it's a monthly B5. It's a monthly calculation. So comma, and then the net, the number of periods is, okay, so here's a little tricky. We have to subtract the value in B10 from B6. So the number of periods that are left is the difference between the mortgage. They've been paying it for 5 years on a 15-year mortgage. So 15 minus 5 is what? 10, right? So they have 10 years to go, but this is the calculation for that. So it's going to be B6 minus B10, right? And we multiply that times 12. Okay, and then for the payment parameter, it's B7, the monthly payments, but we have to put a negative sign in front of it to make sure the outcome of the PV value is positive. So if I put minus B7 and then close parentheses, is this going to work? Probably not. You guys are skeptical. Why? Vincent says it's too little arguments. What do you think, Crystal? Well, that's to return a positive value because these are all being multiplied. So that negative B7 will make it a positive because this is it's a negative. Do you guys remember the order of operations? PEMDAS. What does PEMDAS stand for? I'm going to hit return just to see what happens here. It's a negative value. It shouldn't be negative, should it? So so PEMDAS, which stands for parentheses, C's, exponents, exponent, whatever, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, exponent. Okay, so that's what it stands for. This is the order of operations. First, you do whatever's in the parentheses, then the exponent, then multiplication, then division, addition. So what's happening here in this formula is it's first it's doing everything in the parentheses, and it looks for the next thing, and which is what? The multiplication, right? Well, the division, but it's also got the multiplication. So instead of B6 minus B10, it's taking B10 times 12 and subtracting that number from B6. So we need to put parentheses around these two right here, B6 minus B10. And I think, what do you think? Is it going to give us the right answer? Yes. Now it's correct. So we could drag that on over. Want to see the formula? Well, there's a problem with the formula. I can't see it so small. Yeah, B5 over 12, comma, open parentheses, B6 minus 10, close parentheses, times 12, minus B7, or negative B7. That will give you your numbers. So I'm going to get rid of PEMDAS here. I'll leave it there and see what happens. So I'm going to save the file. Is that it? Are we done? Yeah, I think we're done. So our workbook should look like their workbook, and I think it does. This is what theirs looks like. 678. Ours shows 678, and then the campground research. And theirs looks like this, 43, 502, 255. Ours looks like that. All right, so we can save it and go back into our Cengage link here. Wake up. There we go. And press the start. We need to upload this time. And where's mine hiding? Is it here? Section 4. Here it is. Why doesn't it like it? Upload. Oh. There we go. Now it likes it. Submit. View report. Let's see how we did. 95 out of 100. Uh-oh, what did I get wrong? Oh, I used the wrong border style. 9D on mine. Sorry. And then protecting. Oh, I guess I must have unprotected it. I must protect it with a password or something. All right, so I made a few errors. Hey, I'm not perfect, but I can go back and correct those. So here's an example where you can look at where I may have gotten things wrong. So right here, when you go back to your report, you have to enable editing, and then hover over here, right? It'll show you like where your mistake happened exactly. So that corresponds to what's in the summary report here. So anyway, that's just a way to, I can go back now and correct the mistake and get 100 and resubmit it. So questions on Module 4? Okay.